Good afternoon. Hello, everyone. My name is Dipak Patel. I'm the Solution Consulting Director for Saba in EMEA. Okay, I'm going to talk about how at Saba we see the transformation of learning take place through Saba People Cloud. And before I get into that, I think I need to give you a bit of context. I need to try and give you a bit of context to how we see that change coming about and why that's happening. So, if we look at the business environment that we're working in today, I guess the one thing that's most certain is that there's a lot of uncertainty here. We're seeing globalization as a challenge that companies have to deal with. The speed and pace of change is accelerating as well. There's what we call hyper competition. So people are producing new products and services that compete with ours at a faster rate than we ever imagined they could do that in the past. We have more demanding consumers. People expect more from their products and from their solutions and their services. We also have a greater scrutiny being applied to us from government. So we're under more pressure with regards to regulation and the compliance that we need to work to. And as I said, this all leads to increased uncertainty. So that means that organizations themselves are in fact changing. They're moving away from this hierarchical, bureaucratic, top-down view where people work in silos or in centralized organizations to one where we have this thing we call a hierarchy. People need to be more agile. We need to create teams that form faster, work on a project, break up, reform in another project, go and work in other projects or other places. And this is a much more fluid way of working than we've seen before. In addition to this, the fabrics of our organizations are changing as well. I mean, the first thing to think of is that there are more generations in the workplace now than before. So the gaps between the generations are actually getting smaller. So we have that challenge. We also have different expectations from people, different motivations. We tend to work in teams where our geographies are more dispersed than they were before. And we have different contributions that people expect, different ways of being motivated. Okay. In addition to that, we have the addition of new technology. So things such as Facebook, Twitter, social networking. These tools we're now seeing not only in our private lives, but people are expecting to see them in their working lives as well. So the technology is having an impact on what's going on as well. Those then drive a change in the systems that we use. So again, our technology used to be very information-centric. We used to follow the hierarchical ERP model where, as you can see down the left there, things were organized centrally, would have had a command and control, a top-down view, to one where our systems now need to be more people-centric, more focused around individuals and groups and teams of people than they are around the organizations of data. And so there's a new world of work emerging, and with that there's a new way of working that's coming about as well. And for some of us this is happening now, for others this is just beginning, for other people they're already in that, they've already made that transformation, they're already seeing this as a reality for them in the workplace. So, work is no longer process-centric, top-down, rigid. It's much more people-centric. It's much more fluid. It's much more chaotic. We're looking to the intelligence that we get from the crowd, and it has to be much more trusted and transparent. And if you look at what we were trying to do as learning and development organizations, which is focus our training to one where we're taking on a 70-20-10 approach. Well, our traditional systems, actually, they concentrated their efforts on the 10. They did that very well, but they didn't really help us in the other elements, in the on-the-job piece of training, in the feedback that we needed to provide to individuals. So we spent all of our effort, most of our resources and our money, on developing systems over here, and we didn't really have the ability to focus on what went on over here. And so the view at Saba that we have is that there's a new world of learning that now has to come about to cope with the new world of work. It just doesn't make sense for us to continue trying to deliver learning in the way that we did before when the world of work around us is changing and the expectations of what people need is changing at the same time. And from Saba's view, well, this is nothing new. We've been innovating, systems have been innovating all the time. We started the learning management, pioneered the learning management systems back in 1997. Going forward in time, we saw the need for talent management to live alongside learning. We saw the benefits of virtual classrooms. And in 2011, we began the work on Saba People Cloud, on the transformation of the LMS into the next generation of learning systems. So if I were to introduce you to the People Cloud, the way of describing it would be this: we haven't forgotten our learning heritage. You know, we still need to deliver mandatory training. We still need to deliver compliance training. That's not going to go away, but that becomes a dial tone to our world of work. It's just the entry point that we need to adhere to. The real benefits come from providing real-time collaboration within learning, to looking at social learning and collaboration, to bringing that to talent management. And how we view that is that this has to now be learner-centric, not process or company-centric. It needs to have a social element that you can adopt at your own pace, not the pace that we dictate to you, because we understand that different organizations are in different places on their journey to taking on a social-based solution around their learning. It has to be more collaborative, because there's a lot of expertise and knowledge in the network that we aren't able to tap and use. And it also needs to be mobile, purely because mobile devices are now so prevalent, but also it gives people the opportunity to learn where and when they want at the pace and time that they want. Okay. So our view is that then Saba People Cloud more effectively reflects the way of working and therefore the way of learning that we need to bring in the new world. And that involves creating networks of people where they are connected because they have a common reason for being connected. They have the similar job or similar background or similar skills that need to be shared or similar learning. The idea of activity streams where people are commenting and contributing to the learning that they're taking. Unifying the search. So in some cases we've seen learning having to be looked for in an LMS, whereas collaboration is looked for in, let's say, a SharePoint environment, or informal documents are stored somewhere on a website. Well, we believe that you need to bring all of those elements together into a single environment, so you search for them in a single place. And also the idea of a virtual classroom. And the virtual classroom will allow us to extend the reach of our instructors and our experts so they can get to more people more effectively, more efficiently. And this isn't, some sort of idea that doesn't have any basis or grounding yet. This is actually something that's happening today. There are some early adopters of this technology out there now. Companies like Accenture, Kaspersky, MEDTRONIC, The Mix, which is a management forum that's run by Gary Hamill. And these clients are working in a very different way to how they would have done in their previous LMSs. And I'm actually going to come on later on to an example from MEDTRONIC, where one of their L&D managers is going to talk about how they're doing this. So what we're looking to do then with People Cloud is actually bring the idea of 70-20-10 to life, to actually give it some real meaning. And if you look at it from a coverage perspective, our traditional LMS would have covered maybe 10 or 20% of our learning requirement. Whereas with People Cloud, we're looking to optimize the full coverage of all of the elements: informal learning, feedback from your peers, as well as formal training. Okay. From a design perspective, we change it from being process-centric, as in courses that we centrally determine and push out, to one where the learner is at the center of how they take their learning. They're able to determine how they learn. We still need to give them mandatory training, of course, but they can pick and choose the way in which they learn that suits them best. From an agility perspective, we increase our resources because we're not dependent just on what we get from learning and development, but we're actually able to tap the expertise that resides in our network. We're able to extend this out to the subject matter experts that we have in our company, to people that are in the field, to customers, to partners, and have their input into how we learn and develop our people. So if we look at that in another way, a Bursin study that was done only a couple of years ago made it quite clear that actually 80% of the learning that takes place in an organization takes place informally. Okay? But as I said, we concentrate our efforts on, on the 10% that is seen here. So we look at, well, you could argue about recruiting, but we look at reviews, goals, succession planning, learning, compensation in a very kind of formal way. We're missing out the other elements. But if we go forwards and say, well, actually, we also need to optimize all of those other pieces. So how do we include advice from our peers? How do we do learning that's driven by what other people are doing? How do we provide feedback and ratings and comments upon training that's taken? Okay, and that's what we look to do with Saba People Cloud. So I have a laser pointer here. If you look down the left-hand side there, from the top you can see that there's a plan, which is my formal learning I need to do, but I also have access to expertise, to people who I follow or people that follow me, to bookmarks. So learning that I find useful, I can bookmark and store. Groups, videos, conferences, meetings. So all of the other elements that make up my 70-20-10 are now incorporated into one system, rather than my having to go and do these in another place. Okay. We think about this learner-centric view. So this gentleman in the middle here is one of the new generation that's coming into the workplace. He's someone who's grown up using Facebook and Twitter. He probably has a much shorter attention span than most of the people in the workplace. He's not really going to sit in a seminar for 2 hours at a time and learn. He would probably want to learn in a different way to how we do. He'd probably use different technologies to the ones that we do. So for this person, trying to impose our traditional way of working with a learning management system isn't really going to fit into his thinking or his psyche. Okay. What he needs is learning that he can take in his time in a way that fits in. So what are we going to do for him? Well, he might want to have intelligent recommendations made to him. Okay? In the way that Facebook tells him what his friends are doing, why shouldn't the learning management system tell him what his peers are learning? Okay? If you look at groups, so I've taken a piece of training or a piece of learning, well, wouldn't it make sense to be put into a group where that forum could continue to collaborate, continue to share their experiences and their knowledge as they go forwards? Okay. Mobile learning. He might want to take out his iPad or his PDA or his smartphone and maybe pick up on some learning or gen up on some learning on the 20 minutes on coming into work on the train or the 20 minutes going home. Okay. And what we can do is use the intelligence that we gain from how he learns and how other people learn to provide a very focused piece of training to him through recommendations, through connections to his peers. And here's an example of how that looks. I'm not going to do a demo. If you want to see this in real life, there's folks over on the Sabas stand that can take you through that. But from a formal perspective, here's his plan. These are the things he's going to do. So you can still see that he has goals and objectives, just as he would in another system. He still has learning and certifications. As I said, these things just become dial tone. They become the sort of the entry to doing work for us. Unless you're compliant, unless you've done your mandatory training, you can't really work. Well, you also need to do more than that. How are you going to give people the edge to be competitive when that's more than what they need? They need to know how to compete in this new world of work. He also has reviews or meetings to be done. So we're not forgetting the formal things by moving to People Cloud, but we're taking that and augmenting it with the concept of a network. So he's connected to these people because, from a learning perspective, there's value for him following them. They may have the same job, they may work in the same organization, they may have the same learning requirements, And so this connection to his peers adds him into the network. It fits in with the way that this person would want to work. Okay. It also allows individuals to have their contributions recognised by their peers, by the network. It adds some kudos to them contributing information because it gets seen and recognised by the network. There's a motivation for them to share their knowledge. Another build. So what does that then do? Well, it allows us to then make recommendations to them. So in the example at the top there, these are things that people in the network have shared with an individual because there's a reason for them to want to see that or learn from that. There's the idea of recommendations being made because the network learns from what you do. If you have a particular job role and you take a piece of training and rate it very highly, the other people with a similar job role will get informed of that. So now you're basing decisions on your learning and on how you learn based upon what the people in your network are doing because you've got a shared interest. You have a reason for wanting to follow what they do. Okay. The idea of groups here also then put people into a logical collection for purposes of learning. And this isn't collaboration for collaboration's sake. This is applying collaboration and networking to the process of learning such that it fits in with the way in which people are working. Now, another thing that then happens by being a part of the network is the ability to comment and tag or rate and share things. Now, most of us have probably used Amazon or a similar website to buy something, or hotels.com before we book a hotel. And one of the first things we do is we go and read what other people have said. Was this any good? Was the hotel nice? Was the product useful? And we take that on board. Now, why would we not want to do that with learning? If there are 10, 15, 20 items in my learning catalogue about a particular topic, why would I not want to see what other people have said about that learning to decide which one is most relevant for me? Turn it the other way around. It gives us feedback as learning and development people as to which content is actually working, which content isn't. And if it's not working, then we know we need to do something about it. Okay. The other thing that this new person in the world of work is going to want to take advantage of is mobile. And so these are screenshots taken from an iPhone. They could equally have come from an Android device as well, that show activity streams. So information being fed through to him, groups that this person is a part of, and meetings that they may have. So the technology allows them to be a part of the learning network even when they're not in the office, just by having a smartphone or a tablet device. The other challenge we have with the traditional learning model is the effectiveness of learning. So what tends to happen in a traditional LMS is what we see on this blue line here. After you've taken your training event, your skills go up, and unless you stay in a loop of continuous learning, your knowledge of that kind of drops away. So anyone here still remember how to do integration or differentiation from their A-levels if you did maths and stuff like that? Probably not, because we just don't go back to it, we don't use it. So if there's a way in which the network effect can reinforce learning, then our learning retention is going to get better. It's going to increase. Okay? It's going to make us more effective in our jobs. And as the rate of work changes, as the rate of change increases, then so the rate at which we have to learn just continues to increase as well. So it's a problem that we just can't catch up with unless we utilize the network, unless we take the knowledge that's out there in our organizations and use that to help people learn. Here's another example. Imagine if your subject matter experts, the moment stuff came to mind, were sharing that with the people in the organization. So this is an example taken from actually our own use of Saba People Cloud within Saba. And this is a workspace that's owned by our SMEs. And as they come up with whatever it is they come up with, they're publishing this into this workspace, and people are sharing, contributing and learning from blogs, wikis, contributions that are made by experts. Now here's where the interesting part comes in. Because we know the skill set of these experts, we know the training they've taken, we know the certifications they hold, we can assign some more value to the learning they put in. If I didn't have that, how would you know whether the comment that's made by one person is more valid or less valid than the comment that's made by another person? You just don't have that. You don't have that validation there. Okay. Then think about talent. So if organizations are getting flatter, if the hierarchies are being broken down, where's your top 100 now? Well, you probably don't have it. If you work in a project-based world, then your manager might change 3 or 4 times during the course of the year. Who's going to do your review? Where are you going to get the value from it? So when you look at a map like this, and this is something called DNA, which is Dynamic Network Analysis, this maps out the learning connections and pathways inside of our Saba People Cloud environment. The size of the dot represents the size of the contributions that people are making, their value to the network. And this gentleman over here, as you see, biggest dot in the map. He's a product manager, so no surprise there. There's a gentleman up here, one of our SME experts, also a very big dot. And the other thing you see between them is the strength and size of the connection. The thicker the line, the stronger the connection, the more information flows between them. Okay? So from a talent perspective, what if that person left? What would happen to my network of knowledge? Well, actually, you could see, and if we can show you this on the stand, if we delete that node, this network has to go and redraw itself. I've now got a very different view of my talent, a view of my talent that I can't get from traditional systems, a view that says these people are important to me because of the contributions they're making to my network from a learning perspective. Okay? It also tells me other things. It tells me that that person out there seems to be getting all of their advice from just this person over here. Well, what if they're wrong? It gives us a view into the fact that there could be a chance of things, not being communicated in the right way. In fact, the first time we turned this on and ran it on ourselves, we found a little island of 4 dots that were just out on their own. We thought, well, what's going on there? And then we had a look, and that happened to be the folks that work for Saba in Japan. And they're the only 4 people in the company that spoke Japanese. So, well, this is great. They're collaborating, working together and sharing information, but someone needs to get in that network and just make sure that what's being shared and collaborated on is, firstly, the right thing, and actually, if they've got some really good stuff going on, we need to get it out of there and share it with the rest of the organization. Okay. So, where that brings us to then, again, I'm going to refer back to this Bursin model, is we want to get to the point where we have the Agile Enterprise, one where we have highly connected virtual teams, where people are collaborating quickly in order to meet customer requirements, where we're using data to make decisions. This drives this Agile organization. And in order to do that, the workplace has to be different, and the workforce will fundamentally be different. We can't do anything about the workforce. Demographics are going to do that for us. That's going to arrive, and we can't choose that. So our view is that Saba People Cloud, as this next generation of a learning management solution, is better attuned to dealing with the agile workforce and to meeting these needs. Okay. Now, I've kind of given you our view, told you about a bit of technology. I think the next thing for you to do is I'm going to share with you a video that was done by the people at MEDTRONIC. They've gone through this process, and I think it's probably easier for me to explain to you how they do it as opposed to me have them explain it to you, sorry, rather than me try and do it for them.
I'm Gabriel Graham. I'm the e-learning program manager for MEDTRONIC, the MEDTRONIC Diabetes Division. So we have a group of Gen Y employees in our inside sales team, and we recently had an attrition issue with them. They were leaving at a rate of 2 employees per week. It was just a significant issue that we needed to address. and we needed to be able to reach them directly and reach them kind of on their playing field, with technology, and get them engaged into their career development, in addition to the peer-to-peer learning or the traditional classroom learning experience. We needed them to be participating in informal learning and kind of be reaching out for learning on demand. So learning that was going to help them develop in their careers, but they needed to do so at their own pace and at their own desire. We needed a social solution for them to connect to each other. We also needed a learning solution that was going to help them gain the skills and experiences that were going to help them move ahead in their careers, which ultimately was going to keep them at Medtronic longer. We explored a number of social solutions, and we also explored a number of traditional learning solutions that were talking a lot about social being part of that. But we needed really a great mix of both the social elements and the learning elements together. So what led us to SBC was needing that perfect combination of social experience and really giving them that Facebook-like or YouTube-like experience, but also being able to give them on-demand learning that was going to help them further their careers. So we needed them engaged, and we also needed them learning so they could move ahead. It wasn't just for them to get online and chat together and have that experience. We needed them to be essentially engaged with each other and engaged with the company. And we needed their social conversations to be around their own career development. So we wanted to keep that very focused on helping essentially to reduce attrition by getting them really laser focused on their careers. My experience with other vendors has been challenging in the past. What I was most pleased with was Saba's ability to understand our need, which is very specific for this program, for this project up front, to get that and get the architecture of what we were trying to build, and to be able to react very quickly and build it, help us to configure that within the system in such a way that our users were going to be able to hit the ground running. So My Edge is a multifaceted, dynamic program that was geared to engage our inside sales employees, to get them really involved in their own career development, and to do so by exposing them to a broader network of other employees and also potential hiring managers. So what we did was we interviewed a number of hiring managers that would be potentially hiring these employees, and asked them what types of development they want to see for these individuals. And then we needed a program that was going to get them involved online in their development. And so we created myedge.org, the website, to do just that using Saba People Cloud. As always, starting a new social experience online within an enterprise, within a company, can be challenging. And getting people really engaged in using a new product or new tool of any type. However, what we've seen is they've really taken to it. They've really adopted the technology. It's familiar to them. For them, it's like Facebook, and they talk about it all the time. It's just as easy as using Facebook. They're able to browse videos, rate content, tag information, and follow friends online. So it really was familiar to them, and it really got them, at their home base. Within 2 months from the start date, we were able to get our users online. We had a very aggressive start date that we needed to meet. We had made a lot of promises and set a lot of really high expectations for what they were going to experience online, and we had to deliver on that very quickly. Very different than any other experience that we've had. It could have taken us a year or longer to implement this in-house, or as we have with other systems. For this, able to get up to 2 months, it was just a really great win. Well, our adoption accelerator, Maria, has
I'll just stop the... Hello? Try again. Hello? Anything coming out? Can you hear me at all? No? Great. Nothing? Not a dicky bird. Try again. No. Hello. Apologies for that. Right, everyone hear me again now? Really close? Good God. Hold it like that. Clearly, I'm not very used to holding one of these. So I'll just summarize that quickly for you. So Medtronic, they're a highly regulated industry. They sell medical devices. They still need to do their compliance training. But as you can see from that example, their challenge was in a new call center, how did they retain people? They had a huge attrition rate going on. And their view was that the change in technology, the change in the people in their workplace, the change in how they had to train and educate them, it just had to be different. And that's where their experience from Saba People Cloud has come about. So hopefully that gives you an example of actually someone who's quite a traditional company with a lot of very formal processes actually is able to adopt a new technology and use it to actually reduce their attrition. So thank you very much for your time, your attention. If there's any questions, please, I'll be happy to answer them. But thank you.